This week on Not Sauce for Work, Mo Khan of TSN 690 joins us as Terry is off. We take the opportunity so that Mo can drink my tears after the Georgia Bulldogs lost in the SEC Championship to Alabama. Bill Belichick was intent on ruining my week before it started, and we discussed two embattled NBA point guards. We will get into this and much more on this episode of Not Sauce for Work on the Hot Sauce Sports Podcast Network. Welcome, everyone. You are listening to and perhaps watching Not Sauce for Work on the Hot Sauce Sports Podcast Network. Joining me is the invasion known as Mo Khan.
We are coming.
Mo Khan, of course, joins us. Eagle is producing as always. How's it going, MK?
I am well. I've been summoned from the exile of prisoners to come here.
Remember we lost him in the jungle? You couldn't find them for like 6 months.
Yeah. If you can't hear the Mo from the trees. Yes?
Look for the bow ties.
Look for the bow ties.
Look for the bow ties.
Look for the bow ties or the Cavaliers hoodie.
Yeah, well, you know, it's all good. I should have worn Team Canada stuff today, though.
It's true. It's true.
The Lululemon stuff, the nice stuff.
What you got?
How about the soccer team?
Oh,
Yeah.
I got some free swag.
What you got going on, MK? What's new in the world of you?
Nothing much. Play by play.
he's an esports star now.
Esports, yeah. I did
This is your chance to promote stuff, so don't say not
hey,
much.
Not much. You know, radio. Still doing the radio.
We're doing that for you, buddy.
Play by play as well. A lot of that right now. Esports did my first ever tete-a-tete in esports hockey, which is a lot different than real life.
What was the last video game you played?
FIFA, yeah.
Which year?
FIFA. What year? FIFA 2020.
All right, that's not bad. It's
Yeah.
more recent than I thought. That's not
That
bad.
was the summer I played it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. And of course, you're on TSN 690.
That's right. TSN 690 doing a lot of stuff for them and the TV side of it as well. Again, a lot of play-by-play right now. Wrapping up the fall games that I have, and gearing up for the winter, which will be thick and fast of games coming through.
Absolutely, and that's it's good to hear. For those of you who have not yet done so, please do like, subscribe, rate, review, all those wonderful things, because that's how we keep the lights on. I want to, because I have a real journalist in the building here, Eagle.
According to Terry, I'm not.
Yeah, I know. But you know what I mean? Like, so, I've known you for a long time, right? Like, we've known each other about a decade.
Approaching that. We're pushing
Yeah.
the 10-year logo of our anniversary, yeah.
Full disclosure, like, you were the MC at my wedding. Like, we're close friends. Like, we're friends outside of here. You know, we work together, of course, in Flight Plus Football, and we've done some work together. You helped me get this idea of Hot Sauce Sports off the ground and all that. So the idea, and I know your ideals when it comes to journalism, you know mine, and as much as we work in a podcast space, the white hairs betray me and people know my age, but also when it comes to my sensibilities, I think that's part of that as well. I had some interesting feelings when I saw initially Hulu, which is owned by Disney.
Yeah.
They put out a teaser that they're going to have a documentary about the events at Astroworld and Travis Scott. And the first thought that I had was that, well, this seems quick for a documentary. And then the next thing was the documentary was called Concert from Hell. And it seemed really quick in terms of a turnover that you're already calling this concert from hell. You're already framing it that way. I feel like you haven't even really conducted all your interviews yet. You haven't really done the work. Like you start with a hypothesis that already frames your conclusion, right? So I found that to be sort of a strange framework, and then I found it to be a little soon to be putting out that kind of documentary. And I was curious to get your thoughts, because I was like, if I talk to some people who just exist in the podcast space, they don't really see it that way. But again, based on our sensibilities, I thought Mo might be the good person to have this conversation with.
Well, they must have these filmmakers. They must have a plethora of people to interview, right? But
yeah.
The thing is, the unfortunate incident that happened in Texas was, 2 months ago, give or take. That's a short turnover of doing a documentary.
Yeah.
This is more like the FedEx overnight process. I'll take that and let's do
Amazon
this.
Prime.
Amazon Prime, super expediting the whole process. I just think that it's probably a slanted view.
Yeah.
Whatever it's going to be for.
Well, especially you're not calling it like, sadness at Astroworld, or
No.
you're calling it the concert from hell.
Hell, yeah, it kind of gives a little pop, and that's not the pop you want. But I just think now, Pease, that the reality is, if you did a proper documentary of this unfortunate incident, this would take a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, like we saw, for example, with Firefest, like that.
Yeah.
Like that was, it was not perfect in terms of like the Ken Burns ideal of a
No.
documentary, but it was well researched, and I remember reading about it like regularly as updates were coming out, being fascinated by the story, and then eventually the documentary dropped, and I still learned from the documentary, so it was still well made in that sense. Whereas this feels like, it's just all the stuff I saw on Twitter put together in a compilation. Like, I don't know if they can get proper clearances and do all the groundwork to do a proper documentary.
Yeah, it's like the Aaron Hernandez documentary that came out on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 2-3 part, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It still has some holes because it was just fresh, and it's like, well, if you wait a couple more years and do some more, deep dive into this whole process, maybe you find some more information on Hernandez and his family background. It just felt like, okay, well, look, we know his family was dysfunctional, that it was not a proper home that he was raised in, and the whole the webbing of his aunt and then his uncle and all this stuff that came through, then the unfortunate situation that happened at UF. And then, of course, with him being real that he's homosexual.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like it was rushed. There wasn't a full detail for that documentary. It's in relation to what we have for Travis Scott coming up here. Again, I just think this would be a rush thing here, and then we're going to have one presentation, and that's it. And then, in reality, for Hulu and these guys, you might want to tap the brakes a little bit and just let this.
Well, it's been pulled. Disney has pulled it.
Yeah,
from Hulu.
exactly.
I do hope a documentary eventually comes out, and I'd like
Which
to
it
see it.
will.
But it's just interesting because, another thing happened with a member of our team brought a story to me from La Presse about Gorton and the Montreal Canadiens and his lack of ability to speak French. You know that I know David Sampson, who used to be VP of the Expos.
Yeah.
He often talks about how difficult the French media was with him, even though he spoke French. He just had a strong accent, and he's American, obviously.
Sure.
And so Gorton obviously struggled in his press conference. He labored through the French as well. And so this was an op-ed piece talking about how the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens needs to speak French and needs to address the media. And I thought to myself, well, first of all, I don't think it's a ridiculous ask that the person in charge, or if it's not going to be him, there needs to be someone who communicates with the media.
Right.
Because there's not a CEO of an American company that only speaks Mandarin, right? Like, they're choosing of the options who speak the language, who can communicate to shareholders, which the stakeholders for a team like the Montreal Canadiens partially is the media and the community, right?
Yeah, I think being a part of the whole Habs media scrums. Yeah, the French culture, the French language, as we know, is very vibrant in the province of Quebec. And in the case that we have for Jeff Gorton, where he's at, being an American, Journal de Montréal took some pop shops towards him.
But that's the Journal de Montréal is hardly a newspaper.
Yeah, it's a very extreme newspaper.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, that eventually the Habs will hire someone that will have a domestic background of the language in this province that will hopefully ease the microscope on Gorton for what he wants to build for the franchise. But I think now if he's moving forward here, this will be the forefront, and because whoever he hires, that GM, and that GM maybe hire a new head coach, they better be home run hires because they can ill afford to flame out because Gordon won't have that credit to stay for 10 years as well as Mark Bergevin.
For sure. The one thing about that story that I found interesting was I then read it, and it was an op-ed piece. and it's just, people largely don't know the difference, for example, between an opinion or an editorial piece and an actual article. You know what I mean? So,
right.
And I didn't blame him because I still read a newspaper. You're still involved in news, but a lot of people don't. That's most of what people consume in the first place.
So I don't want to necessarily take too much time on this, but
You are right now.
Well then,
The new Android operating system literally does real-time translation, and it's actually quite accurate. I don't understand why we can't just get the best person and get a translator or an automated translation.
But would you make that case though for a CEO who only speaks Spanish?
Yes.
Well, hold on.
But like if that's the best,
if that's the best candidate to run your company, then yes, absolutely.
But if that's going to be the standard moving forward, then I agree.
Why not? Yeah.
But that's never the standard.
But why not?
But the
technology's there. Why not?
I agree. Look, I only communicate with my mother-in-law through my phone because it translates for the two of us because we don't speak the same language. Spanish is my fourth language. English is her second.
And you have interpreters for like American Sign Language and stuff like that for a lot of press conferences too, and even at concerts, like artists will have people like signing the lyrics. So why can't we get a guy to translate a fucking speech on a podium?
It's just not common now.
Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, let's look at U.S. sports as being, the geography of English and Spanish being the main two languages in that country. I never heard. I know it's more prevalent here in Quebec, but you go to South Florida, no one's screaming at the Miami Dolphins for not hiring a Hispanic head coach.
Brian Flores is Hispanic.
Yes, but before that with Don Shula and others before him. But the Miami Hurricanes. But then
part of Miami does freak out when they don't. So like there was an outcrying for Manny Diaz, and they chose Mario Cristobal, which we'll talk about later.
Who's a local
over Lane Kiffin.
Right, but that's the thing. I was gonna say Cristobal is a local guy, so he appeases to both languages, as we saw with his.
And he appeases the rich crowd from Columbus. But again, we'll talk about the Hurricanes later this evening. I just found it interesting again, Mo, because again I think that when you read something, there needs to be a discerning eye, and especially when you see these documentaries, and like for example, the Michael Jordan docuseries or the Beatles docuseries that's out now on Disney Plus, or Tom Brady. These aren't documentaries. These are interesting stories told by the people involved.
They're controlling the narrative.
And so, but the thing is, they talk about people saying fake news when they're talking about journalists, but then when the story's molded by the person, like, well, they were there. Yeah, but they're still like making themselves look bad, right? So I think it's something we have to look forward to moving forward. It's not going away. This type of work is not going away, but I think discernment is important as well. I want to get your thoughts because again, I know we're both old timey in this space, so needless to say, I thought it was an interesting conversation to have. But in the meantime, we do need to get to all of the news.
I clicked the wrong one.
Did you click a button called silence? Terry, it's the news.
I'm not Terry though.
Yeah, not at all. Mokan.
Yes.
The Patriots were they were out to ruin my week. Bill Belichick had a game plan where he would run the ball continuously. This special quarterback that everyone keeps talking about that I don't see being special, Mac Jones, threw 3 times. So he's so special that Bill Belichick trusts him to throw the ball only 3 times to win the game. He ended the game with -3 total yards.
That's okay, though, because the Buffalo Bills defense, I mentioned this on TSM radio, saying it's on them, the front 7, to stop the run and get Mac off his spot. Well, they didn't have to worry about that first, the latter part, but the first part was he couldn't stop the run. That's been the weakness for the Buffalo Bills, and what Bill Belichick did was he always exploits the team's weaknesses and using his strengths to his favor. And I'll give you the example piece. In the NFC title game in 2020, Niners-Packers in San Fran, Jimmy G threw the ball 8 times for 77 yards. In the biggest game before the Lombardi game.
So, but why was it that Garoppolo got eviscerated for that? Meanwhile, here's Ian Rappaport's tweet during the game. It's the second link, Eagle. Doing it out of order just because it relates to what Mo was saying better than how I planned the script. And now I'm filibustering and buying you time because you just have to click the link. Nope, the wrong one.
No, I know.
There we go. If the Patriots win this game, Josh McDaniels' offensive game plan should rest along Bill Belichick's defensive game plan for Super Bowl, whatever, in Canton. I mean, dude, it's not 1940s Army Navy. It wasn't a great game plan. They just ran the ball up the middle over and over and over. It took no effort in planning. It's fine. It won the game. It was horrendously boring. I turned it off. I'm not watching that. I'm not watching a game. Like, why would I choose to be bored when there's so many entertainment options?
The fascination of the environmental elements is what makes it more intriguing. Because if this was a playoff game, we're all watching because, hey, it's a playoff game. Win, you go on. Lose, you go home.
Oh, I wouldn't watch it. Yeah, I don't care if it's a playoff game. But I'm not going to be bored if I don't have to be bored.
But you know what? The Buffalo Bills are now in a hole because they put themselves in a position where, Pease, I'm sure with you and Terry, you guys probably thought, we all thought the Bills would make a deep run this year with the hype being bestowed on them. You lose to the Jaguars. Now you lose to the Patriots, and now you're behind them. You play them one more time in 2 weeks. Your schedule doesn't get any easier. And for them to lose how they did, where New England said, hey, listen, guys, we're going to run it this way. To the left. Can you stop it? Couldn't do it.
And they were putting everybody in the box. Everyone. Like, it was nonsense. It was frustrating to see.
Imagine being a defensive coordinator knowing they're running on literally almost every single play and still not being able to do anything.
Well, let's take a look at what one of the safeties felt about being asked, hey, why couldn't you guys stop the run? Here's Micah Hyde's reaction in the press conference, in the postgame press conference.
This goes in this respect. It's all about respect. I come here every single week and I answer your questions truthfully, honestly. I appreciate you guys. Don't do that. Don't do that.
My day, players.
This goes in this respect.
So Micah Hyde obviously not very happy. It reminds me of a post-game press conference when they asked Barry Bonds after a playoff game, like, what's it feel like to lose a playoff game?
Yeah.
And he eviscerated the journalist and made him cry. And, like, so, I mean, I have respect for journalists, as you know, as we started the show with.
Yeah, of course.
But sometimes, the way you phrase a question can matter.
I will say this game brought out the best line I've heard Bill Belichick say on camera while he knowingly was on camera, which was in the locker room congratulating the team for the win. And he said, "This is why we practice in this shit," referring to the weather. And I'm like, I've never seen that much emotion on Bill Belichick before.
Well, they got lucky, though, right? In the lead up to this game, they had bad weather in Boston, and they went outdoors and said, bleep, we're going to practice in this environment so we get ready for Monday in Buffalo. So it wasn't like we had, I don't know, the Miami Dolphins or a warm weather team playing in Buffalo, because if that's the case, Buffalo's probably going to win that football game. And we're saying, warm weather team, can't play in cold weather. Look what happens.
Yeah. It just frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. I couldn't imagine why it was that Buffalo couldn't make an adjustment. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they're doing. Are they that much better than you? Right? Because like you said, we thought Buffalo was going to the playoffs. We thought they were winning the division for the next 10 years.
I wasn't buying the division thing, though, coming into the year.
I mean, you thought vanilla Mac Jones was going to win the division?
The Jets were going to win it?
The Dolphins?
I had the Buffalo Bills as a favorite, but I thought the gap was a little bit closer with the Patriots.
I mean, no, let's be real. I think we all had – if the Patriots went 500, I think we would have said this was a good first season for Mac Jones, right?
Yeah. And again, to me, from day one, he's Sam Bradford. He's a guy who's fine. Because here's the other thing. Like, you don't need an elite quarterback. It's ideal if you do, but only like at a given time, Mo, there's 3 elite quarterbacks in the NFL?
Yeah, if you're lucky.
Right? Like there was the age of Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. I would say even Drew Brees kind of was a very good product of the system. He was like an A- quarterback who was elevated to AA+. Kind of what I hope as a Dolphins fan Tua's going to be eventually, just an accurate guy. If you surround him with pieces, is excellent. But so you had sort of Rodgers, Brady, Manning, and the sort of the end of Manning into Brady, into Rodgers, and now you have the end of Rodgers into like Mahomes, but you're not going to get 20 of those guys, right?
No, there
so
aren't.
It's okay if Mac Jones is not special. They're going to win games like this, obviously.
Well, in the case, yes. And I think when you look at Buffalo, I mean, with Josh Allen, I mean, now where do we stand with Josh Allen as a quarterback? Because he had a great 2020.
He made some nice throws. He threw a couple of back shoulder fades to Diggs into the wind where I was like, that's special arm talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure.
And I don't know how he got more accurate. I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, he's played in Wyoming, so he's played in cold weather.
No, but I mean in general, like from his first season to.
But it's dropped down a couple of percentage points this year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that's the thing. And look, they got Tampa coming up in the Patriots next 2 weeks. That's a tough schedule here.
Yeah, we'll see what they look like.
Exactly.
We'll see what they look like. The Lions got their first win. Let's take a look at the final play of the game where they won. We'll describe it for the listening audience afterwards, and then I want to get your thoughts, Mo.
He goes out of the shotgun. He takes the snap from Evan Brown. He's going to fire to the end zone. It's caught. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. And these cardiac kitties have beaten the Minnesota Vikings and won a game for the first time in 364 days. The game-winning touchdown was caught by Amon-Ra St. Brown. And for that young man, his first National Football League touchdown is a memorable one. It beat the Minnesota Vikings 29-27. He goes out of the...
Yeah.
So
Mike Zimmer must be pissed.
here's a couple of things. So I mean, we actually don't need to set up the clip because we had the audio from the radio broadcast. So it was the last play of the game, Mo. 4th and 2. The Vikings took a timeout to set their defense.
Yep.
And they decide to play this weird soft shell defense. And you don't think Jared Goff of all people's going to try and throw a slant to the front of the end zone? It's the only thing he can throw.
So if Eagle, if you don't mind rewinding back the formation. So if we go back to the initial look of the formation, right? I think they have 3 down linemen, right there, 3 down linemen. Okay. I believe it was Spiro Ditas along with Jay Feely, who was on the broadcast calling CBS.
Yeah, this was a radio broadcast.
Right. So Feely said, I'm shocked they're not sending a 4th lineman because Goff is not going to run around and buy time to throw a football. Right?
Yeah.
You can drop 7 and you can rush 4, not drop 8 and rush 3. So now if you play it, Eagle, if you don't mind, please, for a few seconds here. Now watch, press pause. Look at that. You have 5 guys practically at the front of the goal line. You have 3 who are protecting what?
Nothing. It's grass.
Nothing, right? And now you press play again here, Eagle, one more time. Now stop it. Look at that.
Yeah, that corner just fucked up.
The corner dropped.
But and the safety, there's no help.
Yeah, there's no one covering like that. The thing is, Feely said it before, and even listened to the NFL the following day. Protect the front of the goal line because there's not much time. There's not much time for him to look to throw in the back of the end zone. And what happened?
And given that again, it's Jared Goff. It's what he does.
Yeah,
he throws checkdowns. He throws slants.
Exactly, and that's what happened. Like they for whatever reason they thought he was going to throw back in the end zone and left the front of the goal line open for this to happen. So Mike Zimmer, I think, is now officially in the hot seat, and you wonder if he can survive this year.
Well, what's weird is on Twitter, and again going back to the conversation about the quarterbacks, there were so many reactions of like, "This is why we got to cut bait with Kirk Cousins." It's like, was Kirk Cousins on the field for that play? Like,
oh, and like Dan
like
Campbell,
the guy needs the defense to make a stop on 4th and 2 at the end of the game. Come on.
And Campbell Bosher on that 4th down from the 28. And, Kirk Cousins, he hasn't played bad this year. He's had some hiccups, obviously, because he's Kirk Cousins. We make fun of him. But, Peasy, the reality is Mike Zimmer, this defense has underachieved the last couple of years when, if you remember 2 years prior, they were like, hey, great defense, and they've looked nothing like what they were in 2019.
Before this game, the Lions had played 12 games. Do you know what their record against the spread was?
Oh, I don't think it was good.
Eagle, do you remember?
No.
Do you know? They were 8-4 against the spread.
Oh wow!
So they've been playing hard. The thing is, Dan Campbell was a Dolphins coach for a year. He does fire guys up. Guys want to play hard for him. He's a likable dude.
Yeah.
But this is the best you're gonna get out of them. Like, he's not a schematics guy. Like, even the play they called at the end, it kind of just worked out. It wasn't a great play call. It was 3 guys running slants to the front of the end zone.
Did you see Jared Goff's girlfriend's reaction to the?
I didn't.
If Eagle, you can find that.
I'll check.
This show is harder for Eagle to find things live.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of things.
Anyway, the point is, her
so if you
reaction
can,
was
Eagle,
priceless.
great.
It was priceless.
But we'll move on. We'll move on to the next topic. If Eagle finds it, he finds it. In the meantime, though, Gardner Minshew gets a start for the Eagles, and he looked pretty good, Mo. And Eagles doing something else. So
I found it.
you found it? Can you bring it
I
up?
don't know if this is safe.
It's fine.
All right, let me.
It's from the
keep
sports.
talking,
It's from the Sports Illustrated swimsuit photo shoot.
That's exactly
what it
it.
is.
Yes. Hold on.
So it's a public photo then.
Yeah.
There we go.
It was retweeted by a whole bunch of people on social media the other day.
It's over. Wait. Shut up. You guys think this is their first win? Like, this is crazy.
Here we go.
So for those who are the listening audience and not the viewing audience,
We're just looking at tits for 30 seconds.
yeah. So if you're a straight male, I highly recommend this video. Even if you're not, I still highly recommend this video. Honestly, though, I love the reaction. It's a really honest reaction, right?
Girlfriend supporting her boyfriend and Jared Goff.
It's really nice. It's really nice. It's cool that she's off doing her own work and they actually
Detroit?
interrupt her like, hey, very clearly not Detroit. Let's take a quick break. Your boyfriend just won a game and it's super exciting, right? Like it's super, super fun. I'm sure Giselle, who works in the same field, really never had the same kind of reaction. It's more like, oh, he won again. Okay.
Oh, she's been retired from the game for how many years now?
I'm saying while she was modeling, like she was never that surprised. Like, oh, okay, Tom won. That's cool. But yeah, Gardner Minshew gets the start for the Eagles. Looks good because that's what he does in short spurts. And here was a quote he had after the game. Oh, I loved it. It's a picture eagle, so if you can bring it up. Yep. I know it's a little out of the spread. Vincent Van Gogh, he told people you can't be a great artist, a great painter, but you only got 1 year. And he says, you know what? I can't hear you. Clearly, he got the timing on all of it wrong because Vincent Van Gogh cut off his ear at the end of his career. But cool sentiment. I love Gardner Minshew. One of my favorite facts about him is he's Gardner Minshew the second, but there's no Gardner Minshew the first. So he's both the first and the second at the same time. He looked good out there, Mo. And I know somebody who was a Philadelphia beat reporter who sent me a message a few weeks ago before Jalen Hurts started playing better, saying they were grooming him to sort of take over to see what they've got in Gardner Minshew. And I think Jalen Hurts has probably got enough to buy himself some extra time here, but this does put a little bit of pressure on that quarterback battle.
Well, short term, he'll still be the quarterback because the 2022 NFL draft class for quarterbacks is rather weak. Yeah, not strong class.
Well, but do you think they maybe take a deeper look though at Minshew?
Well, that's what I'm saying though, right? Like they can still play around with the quarterbacks that they have right now with Minshew and Hurts for another 18 months. Yeah. And then 2023 is where they expect to have a much better quarterback class that will be available.
Will we even see a first-round quarterback pick this year?
That's a really good question, because right now I'm not too sure. I think we will because by default teams will always overpay to get a guy that they think is the right man, whether it's Matt Corral or Kenny Pickett.
I don't. Yeah, maybe Kenny Pickett, but even then, like I don't see anyone as a slam dunk. Like trust the franchise for 3 or 4 years with this guy,
and I think now for like in Philadelphia is always that market that'll never be satisfied with God for being quarterback for them, and that's true. And if in the case for Gardner Minshew, they always love the backup quarterback. It was like that when Donovan McNabb towards the end of his time with Philly, when Vic came in and took over. And I think now in this situation for Jalen Hurts, he hasn't played badly. Look at the Giants game, right? People pinned the loss on him, but look at Rager. He had 2 awful
the ball
drops.
went through his hands.
Through his hands. They would have won that football game. We're talking about the Eagles now within shoulder distance of the Cowboys for first. And I think now for Gardner Minshew, that's what they brought him in, to be that backup quarterback and to be a guy that can come in if required, as it was, and step into play. And look, for Nick Sirianni, it gives him more credit to work with to say, look, let's see what we have for the next 18 months and decide on a quarterback maybe in 2 years' time.
I kind of feel bad for Minshew, though, because getting all that cheese from that Philly steak out of his mustache must suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, I don't know if you guys remember, like going into this past Sunday's NFL games, there was a stretch of the top 10 picks where it was 3-4 Jets, 5-6 Giants, 7-8 Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because although the Dolphins are taking that pick and slowly dropping that, yes. Thanks to an incredibly weak schedule. So thanks for that, NFL.
Exactly.
But last week our analysis of the NFL was we don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's all, and we spent about 20 minutes talking about how we didn't know anything. I know one thing: the Cardinals are good, but is their social media game better? Because after the game, they put up this L/penis/bean. The Chicago Bean.
Eggplants, maybe?
Yeah, with a cardinal at the top. So a little red tip at the top of the Chicago Bean looking very phallic. And also shaped like an L. Kind of impressed. All levels.
If you recall, the Cardinals used to play in Chicago.
Yeah, that's true.
So a little bit of a...
I mean, I don't recall because neither of us were alive.
No.
Also, is the brown a reflection of the shadows of the buildings into like the bean style, or is it just a bunch of shit running down it liquid style?
Like there's
Into Lake Michigan.
There's so much symbolism in this picture.
this might be the greatest work of art. If for those just listening, do Google the Chicago Bean Arizona Cardinals. It's a work of art. Whoever works, we already talked about Vincent Van Gogh in this podcast. Whoever does the social media for the Arizona Cardinals might be a more talented artist than Vincent Van Gogh, because that's impressive. There's so many layers. It's like reading a poem, and finding yourself weeping and you don't know why. That's what that is.
Oh, that's what the Bears do to a lot of teams and fans.
Yeah, they make you so happy.
There was actually an article, I forget who wrote it exactly, but it was analyzing like the NFC and about all the teams in there and the strength, blah, blah, blah. And they basically completely left the Cardinals out of the conversation, other than mentioning what their record was, and that was it.
So there are analysts that are not watching games because there are people talking about the Cardinals, and their only analysis of why the Cardinals can't be good is it's the Cardinals. And I've run into this with like people who haven't watched Tua, for example, in the last couple of weeks.
Right.
Talking about, well, all he's doing is hitting these short underneath patterns. It's like, that's not actually what's happening if you're watching the games. But anyway.
Well, the Cardinals, quickly here, please, like,
they're good.
They're good. The pressure's on them to get the 1 seed, because if they fall to 2 and Green Bay gets the 1, I can't see them going to Lambeau in late.
I can, because that defense is insane.
But you're talking about a Packer team that also has a really good defense too.
They do, but I think they're sort of one dimensional on offense. That dimension is Devontae Adams.
But even without Adams, they've shown some ingenuity now with their offense, right?
Look, LaFleur's obviously a better offensive play caller than Mike McCarthy was. Mike McCarthy notably not calling offense in Dallas, where they look good on offense because he's not doing the work.
Right.
And yeah, they're improved, but like I think it's a disservice to look at like the Cardinals defense and consider them to be like soft because of warm weather. That's a good defense.
So the final 5 games for the Cardinals, they'll play the Rams on Monday night. Lions will get it home. They should win that game. But for the final 5, Rams home to the Colts, at Dallas and Seattle. So and Seattle's given the Cards hiccups in the Northwest. Even when lose or draw, what the record is, who cares? But we'll know by the end of December into Jan how this Cardinal team will stack up with the so-called playoff targets that they might face at some point.
It takes that long to say January?
Yeah.
You have to go full douche with Jan?
Jan, yeah, exactly.
Jan? All right.
Early Jan.
From now on, we only call it Jan.
Yeah.
We are pro
We're
Jan
in the month
podcast.
of Jan.
Yeah. Mid-Feb.
Feb. Just so March is just Mar.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
April.
April is my favorite month.
Or April.
April might be my favorite month.
April? Yeah, I don't know.
April. Yeah, so we'll have to see that looking forward. Moving into the NBA, Damion Lillard, he said he allegedly said he'd like to play with Ben Simmons. I'm as you know, Mo, I'm as much as I like the sport of football, my first love is basketball. And it's one of the sports where I feel it's not easy to know what you're watching if you don't really know the game. While people criticize Ben Simmons last season, he was an all-NBA defensive player. He's a perennial all-NBA defensive player. And no other player set up more open three-pointers than Ben Simmons. He's just not a gifted shooter. He's not a gifted scorer, period. And he's not an aggressive scorer. Who's the first ball kid? The first name is escaping me.
Lonzo.
Lonzo Ball had similar criticisms when he started in the NBA because he's a pass-first point guard. That's what all point guards were until the early 2000s, where it became a more scoring position. Well, not even that. I guess Allen Iverson was sort of like the changing of the guard there, if you excuse the pun. But the thing is, I think there's a dysmorphia of how fans see Ben Simmons, how the Sixers themselves see Ben Simmons, because it's a weird roster construction, and how the rest of the NBA actually sees him. Because I know the Warriors and Raptors were both aggressively looking to trade for him at the NBA draft. There was even a 3-way trade that was almost worked out between the three of them, but it was too many assets for the Warriors to give up. And then finally, it didn't go that way. But am I crazy in saying like Ben Simmons, like in a lot of other situations, to me is still an incredibly valuable piece?
Yeah, he's an inexact science of a player. I mean, I think he's mentally There's that documentary on Ben Simmons that came out in his freshman year at LSU, his only year at LSU. The guy's from Australia, right?
Yeah.
And he went to Mount Verde in Florida to play his prep school, then had to go to LSU because of the NBA rule. You have to play 1 year outside of high school. The guy, he's a talented player. There's no question about it, but he just didn't give a crap about the American culture of basketball, of how you got to go to college. Playing for your school is
because
such a
in
badge.
every other country you could just play pro.
Exactly, right? And so in his mind, he's like, this is such a waste of my time. Like, why am I wasting my time playing college ball when I could be making money now playing in Europe or in the NBA rather than waste a year of my life.
Pre-NIL as well.
Yeah, playing in Baton Rouge. So I just think from him and from his perspective, his mindset isn't that hard-end, hey, I want to play this American lifestyle of going to college for 1 year or 2 years, then go play pro. He was
But to your point, like for all we know, the way a lot of point guards grew up wanting to be Allen Iverson, he probably doesn't have that reference point of like, oh, I need to be the score first guard. I need to shoot like Steph. Like he grew up in a place where I'm sure he knew Steph Curry. I'm sure, but it's not the type of basketball he's surrounded in for most of his life, right?
No, he hasn't. And I think now for where he's at for Ben Simmons' career, I mean, he's entering the prime of his career. He wants, and we talk about Philly, right, being a tough town for quarterbacks. They're tough in their basketball athletes. Basketball is a huge religion in Philly. They got 5 schools that play each other for the Palestra, for university, and they have a really good production line of players going to NC2A. And I think they see Ben Simmons as a guy that they probably view as being soft, like mentally soft and physically soft, that he cannot live up to the expectation of being a first overall pick. And now he wants to get out ASAP and go somewhere far, far away from Philly so he can play his style of basketball and not have to worry about the Philadelphia critics.
Send him to New Orleans and get Zion.
Like Zion might be done in a couple of years, right? I mean,
we'll talk a little bit about Zion later. But I want to ask, because so the trade rules in the NBA make it difficult at times to make a trade. There's nothing Portland can offer where Dame Lillard and Ben Simmons play on the same team.
Well,
because Morey's not trading for CJ McCollum.
No, and Portland's got to hire a new GM as well. I mean,
that also would help.
That would help too. But
yeah, first thing they need a GM to try and work out a trade. But I went through the salary tables. I went through their assets. There's nothing there. They can't. There's no trade.
No,
it would have to be a 3-way trade
or 4-way trade
or 4.
Yeah.
But I don't see how they get him.
Well, I don't know if Portland can outright get Ben Simmons, in a 1-for-1 team.
Impossible. Without trading Dame Lillard.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, Dame Lillard would be great for the Sixers because
he's Philadelphia tough.
Not only that, you have Embiid who can collapse the defense and then kick out to one of the best shooters in the league in Dame Lillard. But for both those guys to play together in Portland, I don't know what the asset is. I can't figure it out. There's not a way.
And this probably won't be resolved until the summertime where you have more flexibility of okay, well, this is our plan. Of course,
well, he's an expiring contract in 2023, at which point most teams will want him just for
sure. And remember, the TV contract kicks in,
Yeah.
so the cap will move up exponentially in coming years.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild because the max contract's going to be up over 50.
Yeah, and there's some big hitters who will be free agents in the coming years.
Yeah. Kemba Walker, he's been removed from the rotation by Coach Tom Thibodeau. My first reaction to this, Mo, was, that was going to happen because Kemba is a streaky scorer who doesn't really play defense. Tom Thibodeau is a defensive-minded coach. I don't know why the two parties agreed to bring him to the Knicks. I don't know.
Let's not forget injury history now with Kemba Walker with his lower body not starting to give out on him. Kind of like Brandon Roy a little bit.
Brandon Roy, Derrick Rose too, similarly.
Yeah. And it's tough. I find it not perplexing or being bamboozled by it, but I just find it a little bit unique for him to go with Thibodeau, who works his players hard.
Yeah, and demands a lot on the defensive side of the ball, which is not Kemba's strength.
No. And not only that, though, Pease, the reality is people are saying, hey, he's a great coach. I go, guys, being a Bulls fan, I know Thibodeau's style of play. He's going to wear on these guys, and by year 3, year 4, this team's going to be sapped of energy, and they won't be the same team.
It's kind of the Gino Torretta thing where he improves the team immediately, and then over time, the team doesn't improve.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
He's a great, lightning in a jar, and he's great if you already have the horses. but it's gonna be a while, I think. Okay, it's gonna be a while for the Knicks to get better. But like a guy like Ben Simmons, by the way, would work well with Tom Thibodeau.
He would,
because that's what he's looking for in a
but
point
they
guard.
would never trade him to the Knicks. That's the whole thing.
No. The other thing from the NBA, of course, this week, Kyle Rittenhouse, known self-defender, but known to me more as somebody who killed people. He said about LeBron James, simply F you. Because of LeBron James's criticisms about Kyle Rittenhouse.
The actual quote's a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
So this is after at the trial.
I was hoping you'd bring it up, Eagle.
LeBron James tweeted out like, "Oh, what tears? I didn't see one. Man, knock it off. That boy ate some lemon heads before walking into court." And so on the Blazes You Are Here podcast Monday, Rittenhouse basically said, "I was a Lakers fan too before he said that. I was really pissed off that he said that because I like LeBron. And then I'm like, you know what? Fuck you, LeBron." He's kind of right.
Why though? Because like if this is something a player feels strongly about, why wouldn't they take to social media? Like if I can do it.
No, I agree. But then as him too, it
I
can be like,
negative
well,
things about Kyle Rittenhouse.
yeah, but he can be like, well, fuck you, LeBron.
Oh yeah, he's entitled to say it too.
Totally fine.
It's
Add to the list of people who say it.
but you're already an unlikable dude in Kyle Rittenhouse because of the cry face, which was pretty pathetic. Also, the defense, which was kind of pathetic, and also the fact that while you were on trial, you said that you wished you had your gun and to hang outside of CVS to attack people who were getting vaccinated. Yeah, great dude. But yet his input is. And my question to you, Mo, is: do you think that makes him more likable or less likable? Because the LeBron camp's pretty divided for reasons that I have trouble understanding at all times.
It was unfortunate what happened in that situation with the victims and all that and Rittenhouse.
Well, if you were in court mode, you couldn't refer to them as victims.
No.
The judge would not let.
Yeah, it was a very slanted process in how that played out in the court system and stuff. But look, for Kyle Rittenhouse, the reality is he can never live a normal life. He's going to have to live with this the rest of his life, whether he believes he was right or wrong. And for LeBron James, we've seen him in particular being the lightning rod of social media when it comes to him saying something, right? He might say, "Hey, I love this apple." Oh, LeBron loves apples. What's this all about here, right?
He loves apples. That's why he's not as good as MJ.
Right, but let's go back to what's-her-face from Fox News, who said, "Shut up and dribble."
Yeah.
Right? That was the first arrow thrown at LeBron James saying, well, you know what? Bleep this. I'm going to come out and with my own service ace and respond back to those who might criticize me.
It's so weird that someone whose job it is to talk not about sports can say, shut up and dribble, thus talking about sports. So can I say shut up in politics?
Well,
right? The lack of self-awareness to me.
You can't
is
because politics
mind-boggling.
isn't a real thing.
That's also true.
It's shut up and lie to your constituents
Yeah.
while getting paid by lobbyists for special interests
Well, yes.
against the better
say
needs
that.
of society. To enriching yourself. and your
Mokan.
peers.
Georgia lost. Give it to me.
Well, look, let's be real. I think Kirby Smart now has to decide if he can stick with Stetson Bennett as his quarterback going to the Michigan game. JT Daniels is the guy that has probably far superior skill level than Stetson Bennett.
Just less of an athlete. But
Bennett is a Kirby Smart type of quarterback. He's not going to make mistakes. He's not going to put the team in danger. But in the case that it is, and I said this on Twitter, I go, Kirby Smart's coaching like Nick Saban did 10 years ago. Good defense, strong defense, good run game, and a John Parker Wilson type of quarterback, which Bennett is. And now, again, for the big game for Smart, he might get that label on him saying, look, are you going to be too low to your quarterback? Or are you going to say, look, let's make the switch now. We got 3 weeks before Michigan and go with JT Downs because he gives us a better chance to put our receivers in position to make catches because the tight end, Pease, had 16 targets. The rest of the receiving core had a combined total of 17 targets.
Yeah.
You got to figure it out.
So, Mo, I'm going to make a statement, and then I want you to levy the percentage of bias in my statement. Alabama was playing for their season. Georgia was not. Georgia looked like a team that was going through the motions. This game very clearly was not as important to them, and they played that way. Percentage of bias. Start with that.
I would say probably 110%.
110%? Okay.
110%.
No, they have to add up to 100, Mo.
I know.
But I'll admit, there's a lot of bias. I'm a Georgia fan. I spend a lot of my time in Atlanta. It is what it is.
But, Kirby Smart's starting to develop that reputation of the big game yips. There were some plays that he called. We're like, whoa, okay, let's easy up on there. But now for Georgia moving forward, I mean,
but last time when Georgia lost the national championship, Kirby Smart actually made the right defensive call. Nick Saban made the bonehead offensive call, and DeAndre Baker blew his coverage. So I mean, that's not the play call at that point. That's a kid making a mistake.
Yeah,
because he's 20 years old.
But now for Kirby Smart, we're guys. Look, this Bama team wasn't strong from a veteran. Next year's team's gonna be loaded. They're gonna be loaded with talent.
They barely beat your Florida Gators.
Well, no, that was a misnomer. I think Florida was just playing over their heads that day.
Fine, but like they barely beat a team playing over their heads who they should have dominated. What was the other game that they almost lost recently? Auburn. Yeah. They only beat Auburn because the quarterback was injured and the backup was a walk-on.
But let's flip it on Georgia, right? The quality schedule. I mean, like people they beat Clemson, but Clemson wasn't a good team coming into the season. Everyone knew Clemson would take a step back from where they were.
But how much better is this Alabama team right now? Like I know next year Alabama is going to be better, but this year's Alabama is about as good as Clemson. With a better quarterback.
They're much better than they would run circles on Clemson right now. I watched almost every Clemson game this year.
Explain the almost lost to Auburn then.
Yeah. Well, it's very simple. It was simple in that
they're not that good.
Well, no.
Simply, they're not that good.
Look, Georgia's secondary is rather weak.
Yeah, well, that's the weakness of Georgia's
team.
Yeah.
Jamison Williams and Minshew.
But also like Bryce Young was dodging rushers the entire game.
Not really, because
there was pressure the entire game. He was sidestepping rushers.
Georgia, the front four didn't get much pressure on him, and even when
in the first half they would. First half they were in the backfield.
When they did, he was able to buy himself time.
But that's the thing is, will he be able to buy himself time the next time around?
If they play Georgia,
yeah,
that's the adjustment that Kirby Smart's gonna have to make, right? I mean, he's got to put it into his front seven. Listen, guys, you got to be dogs. You guys got bullied. You guys got to be dogs.
Because that front seven is littered with first round picks. Littered with first round picks.
Sure, but the reality is, in this context that they're in for Georgia, the reality is this was probably the stiffest test they faced all season long from a schedule perspective. Florida was nothing this year. We all knew Florida would be nothing. Clemson, people were like, oh, hey, guys, Clemson took a major step back because he lost so much firepower on both sides of the football.
Defensively, they were still all right.
They got caught.
They're pretty good defense.
And Clemson will be better next year. They may not be a CFP Final Four.
It's a reload. It's a reload season.
Reload. Yeah. And now for Georgia, this is their best chance because if they win now, Pease, it can set them up to be in that conversation for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Hey, we can win or be in a Final Four and be a perennial contender than be a one-hit wonder.
They need to start. Well, they were recruiting quarterbacks for a while, and then.
Well, they don't recruit 5-star quarterbacks. That's the problem.
Well, Justin Fields.
But the realization that, again, Kirby Smart loves guys who keep it simple. Jake Fromm kept it simple for him, right? Same thing.
Fromm was a good decision maker. Absolutely.
And now, as I said before, with Nick Saban, that's what he was 10 years ago. Saban was, hey, get an ordinary quarterback that won't make mistakes. But then he became and said, look, we got to, evolve and get that 5-star dude and become more dynamic with the offense. And I think it's going to come down to who he has. Tom Monken is his OC. He's a traditional OC type of guy. If he can find Kirby Smart, a hot shot Lane Kiffin style OC that can come in and say, listen, we need to change everything and bring in dudes, then that's when Georgia becomes like Bama of today and can put up 60 points on any team, whether it's Bama or LSU or Florida.
So, Cincinnati and Michigan, any real chance there or just sacrificial lambs?
Michigan will only have a chance if they can run the ball, which it's going to be tough.
That's the problem, though.
And they got a very young receiving core. But look, you got two
dudes. But the thing is, like, Michigan can only move the ball by running.
Yeah, they can. But they got two dudes on defense that can change games. And,
yeah.
And
well, but if whether it's Bennett or Daniels, if they protect the ball, I don't see Michigan. Like Alabama, jokes aside, I know I came into that game with a lot of bravado, if you ask Eagle.
Oh, I know.
I 10-0 and I was like, well, the game's over. But
honey, we're going out.
But yeah, we did. And then I rewatched it later. I was like, oh, I was wrong. But Alabama worried me because look, Alabama's never going to come into a game unprepared, and they still have, even though it's a reload year for Alabama, they still have better talent overall than Michigan.
Yeah,
right?
Look, if you're going to get Bama's this year, because next year they're going to be a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
Before we move on to our last topic here, Alex the intern is actually an Alabama fan, and as part
Obviously.
of
he has the chuggiest choices in teams.
but as part of the reward for him winning over Georgia, your team, you have to say something nice to him on full screen.
Alex, you only like teams that are the favorites. And that is positive because it makes you happy. Does that work?
I mean, I'll clip it.
It's not negative. It's not negative. And Cincinnati, Alabama. Like, I love Cincinnati. And Bruno Labelle, who's a guy we know, played there. That dude only gets recruited by good teams, by the way. Cincinnati and then the Arizona Cardinals brought him in. So any chance there for the Bearcats?
Their defense can hang. I have a weird obsession with AAC football. I watch a lot. I don't know
It's
why.
fun. It's fun. It's fun to bet
football.
on too.
SMU's fun to watch in that conference. Anyway, so they definitely have a chance if that defense can ball out, and they got studs in that defense that will go in the top 3 rounds of the draft coming up in spring. So if they can force a turnover or 2 and convert for points and get Bama on their heels a little bit, then I give them their defense a chance.
Picks.
Oh, we're 3 weeks away though. I got Bama.
I only have you on the show today, bro.
I know. It's true. It's a good point. That's a fair point. I think it's going to be a rematch of Bama, Georgia. Nothing says
Who
Bama,
wins?
Georgia in Indianapolis for the game.
It's true, eh?
Yeah, it's true. I think Georgia can pull it out
Yeah?
sometime if JT Downs is the quarterback.
So who'd you pick?
I said if JT Downs is the quarterback, I think Georgia.
I honestly think he's a quarterback. Just what I'm hearing from people I know down there, the local news is pushing for JT
Local
Daniels.
news is pushing for that. Yes.
Eagle.
It is time for the rapid fires. Before we get into rapid fires, though, this segment is sponsored by HotStreak.gg, the world's quickest daily fantasy sports game. Mo, do you have an iPhone?
I do.
Have you downloaded HotStreak off of the App Store?
I will.
All right, so make sure to use promo code HOTSAUCE to have them match your initial deposit up to, I think it's $200 if I'm not mistaken. Really simple. You place a few bets. If you get a few of them in it right, you get a hot streak on your favorite sports such as the NBA, NFL games. MLB's out right now, and hopefully we'll get NHL stuff soon.
Well, the NBA is, to me, where the Hot Streak app really shines because it's 180 seconds at a time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of prop bets like Steph Curry plus minus 3-pointer in the next 180 seconds. And then someone from the other team plus minus rebounds, whatever prop you want.
Yeah.
You can put small bets, quarter at a time, dollar at a time, whatever you want to do, whatever your units are, whatever you're comfortable with. Gamble responsibly. Hot Streak is a lot of fun. Remember, the promo code is
Hot Sauce.
There we go, Eagle.
All right, our
I
first
can't do ad reads. I'm really terrible at it, Mo. So that's why Eagle jumps in and does that for
if
me.
you want, place a bet for September 3rd, 2022, Oregon, Georgia at the Mercedes-Benz Dome.
I don't think they have college football. They have just NFL.
Oh, that's true.
It's okay, Mo. You're not a gambler anyways, right?
No.
You don't
Let's
okay.
give everyone an early view of the prop, though.
Yeah.
Champagne unhappy. The Las Vegas Raiders running back Kenyon Drake had sounded off after his second season-ending injury in as many seasons. This video is a little bit graphic, as he described it himself, saying that they need to look at specific styles of tackling. They're throwing flags for taunting and protecting quarterbacks from getting touched, but this is my second straight season being injured by a guy pulling me back and using my body weight to roll up my legs. And if you actually look at the video, I mean, he's not wrong.
You heard that hit. Number 22.
Thoughts?
So my first thought when it comes to running backs is the average career for running back is it's somewhere between 3 and 3.5 years,
Yeah,
right?
2.5
So
3 years.
most NFL running backs don't get to their non-rookie contract, which to me is like the idea of a rookie contract scale, a rookie scale to me is ludicrous. Learn how to manage your budget. Don't be children, NFL owners. But the thing is that we're also not helping them. We're not protecting runners. You can't lower your head on a quarter. You can't go head to head on a quarterback. You can absolutely go head to head on a running back that's never getting called. There's a lot of mechanics and injuries that happen when guys get rolled up on, and players use torque. Players use their weight, their body weight to sort of twist and contort them down. When I see that, I have sympathy for Kenyon Drake. It sucks to see him go down again this way, and I think he does have a point. There are things that can be looked at.
Well, Kenyon Drake is one of the higher paid running backs actually in the NFL now. Higher paid than Josh Jacobs, who's the starting running back for Vegas.
Which is again due to the stupid rookie
right.
scale.
He has a fair point about the tackling mechanisms applied by defensive linemen. Remember, this is human car crashes, and these are men who are about 250 pounds minimum on defense, like missiles, throwing their bodies, launching themselves at these running backs.
With lighter equipment than they've ever worn and moving faster than they've ever moved.
And the speed of the game is so enormous that one small degree of tackling could alter your career, and hopefully this is not a long-term situation for Kenyon Drake. But he's got a fair point that maybe the rules committee will have to look at tackling and how it's done for players.
Well, I mean, they've taken out like hits on a defenseless receiver type
Horse
of thing.
collar.
So
That's it. They've done it for receivers. They've done it for quarterbacks.
Horse collar.
Make it a safe
Horse
game for running
collars,
backs because
leading
look,
with your helmet.
Yeah.
their careers are short, man. They're short. They're too short
Next
for
man
that
up.
level of athleticism.
That's what it is.
All right. Big trouble in Little Olympics. U.S. President Joe Biden has announced that the diplomatic boycott of the China Olympics has begun. The U.S. will not be sending any political diplomats over to the Olympic Games in protest of China being China.
So a diplomatic boycott, that's just saying like you don't want to go to your friend's house for dinner, right? Like, and you're making up an excuse. Because if it's a real boycott, and I understand, you don't want to punish the athletes. But at the same time, you're either supporting China or you're not. And it's getting difficult, Mo. You can't say like I condemn China, tweet from my phone, right? Like, or I condemn China, check out my Jordans. I'm as guilty as anyone else. But it's getting murky, it's getting cloudy. But at some point, you're either gonna be on board and say, listen, it's just the cost of doing business, and it's ugly, but that's where we're at right now. Or you gotta take a stand, and it's, to me, a diplomatic boycott doesn't mean anything because who cares?
No, China's not gonna lose sleep if the
I've
US
never
don't show
noticed
up.
that the president goes to the Olympics.
Well, you do because here's so and so prime minister or president of so and so.
I mean, Mo, like if you're like me and you're watching 5 sports at once, you're not noticing stuff like the president's there. I'm noticing who's winning at bobsled or who's winning at basketball. I'm not noticing, which minister of finance is at the game.
But the reality is, the NBA felt the wrath of the Chinese government when Daryl Morey said what he said, and they lost out a lot of money. Obviously, it's the cost of business. And now the WTA, with what's going on with that situation, with the tennis player involved, that they won't play any events down there. The ATP's, we'll stand by you, but we're not going to stop playing because they know the value of what China brings to them. We know China is a super force from the economy. They are the driving force for certain things in the world. And when it comes to sports, all the big leagues, the big hitters want to have a footprint in the Chinese market because they know that if they do and they're stabilized and not doing anything stupid, they will reap the rewards of a financial gain that not seen ever in our lives for what the Chinese population can bring for viewership and numbers for financial gain.
The U is back? Question mark?
Yeah, question mark's important.
The Miami Hurricanes have announced that their new head football coach will be Mario Cristobal. That's it.
You pronounced that one right. I swear, the heart of the name, you went from like the weirdest pronunciation of Kenyon Drake to pronouncing Mario Cristobal well.
You said it earlier in the show, so
okay.
I had a cheat sheet.
I thought you just hung out in Kendall.
Why'd you just put in Google?
No.
He gets the worst names wrong. It's the weirdest
It's
thing.
half the fun. The
So-
gamble and the syllables.
I mean, we got the news was actually broken. I saw it first on Twitter by Mike Ryan Ruiz of the Levitard Show.
Yeah,
I didn't know
exactly.
he was a newsbreaker.
Well, he mentioned it months ago that they would.
Oh
go
yeah,
on big game hunts.
to be honest, I haven't listened as much as I used to in the past, so I must have missed it. But I mean, it's cool. We talked about it before, the connection to Columbus, Ohio. Sorry, not Columbus, Columbus, Miami, which is a wealthy school where a lot of the youth boosters have connections. He is Cuban American. He is the pedigree of being out in Oregon, and he had a choice to make: Miami or Phil Knight. He seems to have chosen against Phil Knight. $80 million is a big investment for Miami. I just hope they make investments in the program in general, because the problem hasn't just been coaching. It's been also that they just haven't invested in the program.
Well, the benefit of the UM Health system, which generates $400 million, is going to help become.
Yeah, I saw
relevant.
Billy Corbin tweeted about that.
Yeah, so they paid out Manny Diaz $8 million. They paid out Oregon $9 million, and they're going to pay Cristobal $8 million per year. That's a lot of money for them. But
no money to pay the athletes, by the way.
no, exactly.
Only coaches.
But Miami is in a peculiar situation because they've, South Florida has been rated by the Bamas, Clemson's, Ohio State's, Michigans, and so on and so forth, and they've kind of ignored that pipeline, going elsewhere for their talent. And look, Miami, when it comes to resources, when it comes to complexes and having the cool look, they're behind everyone else.
Yeah.
And they lost.
They're stuck in the 90s.
Yeah, and they lost their mystique when Donna Shalala decided to move operations for the Orange Bowl to where the Dolphins play, which
The
is
Rock.
which is nowhere near Coral Gables for them to go watch football. So now I think,
But hey, Mo, you can take a bus. There's a free bus for student
sure.
population.
And I think
because there's nothing students like more than a 45-minute bus ride.
no, of course not, especially in South Florida. But the thing is now for Miami is like, Chris Paul's going to come in there, recruit, which is good for them. They'll fence off some players, but they're still going to be behind Clemson for another 2-3 more years. And you still got to fight the Bamas, the Ohio States, the Clemsons, and other.
But they don't even
Florida-based
need
schools.
to, they can win they haven't won the Coastal.
Yeah, no. Remember, they were brought into the ACC to make football relevant in that conference.
But that's the thing is forget Clemson. They haven't even won their division in the ACC.
Yeah.
And the thing is, again, Mario Cristobal allows them to have a West Coast pipeline, which they don't have, and hopefully it restores that Miami pipeline or the South Florida pipeline. We'll see how that goes, but that hasn't been the case. It wasn't the case for Manny Diaz. He couldn't recruit in Florida either.
No, there's a lot of politics. A lot of the old school players still believing, hey, we're the history guys. These kids don't care about the history. They want to win now and what you have for facilities and stuff like that.
All right, white picket suspense. Pittsburgh quarterback Kenny Piquet, because I like fucking up names, used an interesting tactic
You
to
got it
avoid.
right in the headline, though.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He used an interesting tactic to avoid being tackled this weekend.
And you love to see that from the quarterback.
That was Mark Whipple on the sidelines, the offensive coordinator for the Panthers. Pickett, a very good runner. Don't sleep on those legs. Oh, he faked the slide. Sauce time. Pickett. Did that work? Touchdown, Pitt.
That's a nice sidestep there, like a little the low knees and everything.
FYI, Mark Whipple resigned as the OC for the Pitt Panthers. Go figure.
So what's interesting here, Mo, is the backlash on Twitter was like, oh my God, that can't be allowed. That can't be allowed. Look, the thing is, what came out later was there's not a rule against pretending to slide. I know in the NFL, if you start to give yourself up, you're considered down, and it's like a judgment call by the referee. Look, it's cool for Kenny Pickett to take advantage of that, but that's going to be a loophole that's closed because the next guy who tries that's going to get murdered, right?
Well, they had a good point. Someone made a point on the Paul Feinbaum show that, hey, defense are going to say, listen, bleep it, go hit him.
Yeah, take the penalty.
Take it. Take the 15. Just teach him a lesson. Don't do that again and move on.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll have to see how that looks. Of course, for those who haven't seen it, it's the clip of Kenny Pickett running and pretending to slide before taking off and scoring a touchdown. You literally see defenders stop going after Pickett.
Of course. And then Wake Forest was out of his weight class in that game.
Well, yeah, they weren't going to win that game anyway.
No, they weren't.
It was an interesting way to start that game.
Yeah, of course.
All right, next one. Zion Williamson.
I forgot to put a headline.
You guys. Just point guard with the beard.
Shooting guard, James Harden.
James Harden. Remember everyone was saying he was getting fat?
Mm-hmm,
Zion Williamson's agent has probably told him to do the exact same strategy as he's been eating a lot of food, more recently in a specific game for New Orleans and Houston. So we see here a photograph of him in a gigantic tracksuit, very form-fitting.
The first thing I thought of was there's a commercial that came out at the beginning of the NBA season of Zion on a couch playing video games, eating Doritos. It's a really bad look, and it looks like it wasn't a prop. He was clearly eating those Doritos. He's looking like he's about to go down to the warehouse and put in an order for Dunder Mifflin. Like he looks exactly like the dude who played Daryl on The Office.
Yeah, he's very big. He wondered now if he can uphold the weight that he has on him because
Just 0% chance. He's gonna get hurt, man.
He will get hurt, and that's gonna be the scary part.
But is it a tactic? Is it him trying to get out of New Orleans? You think?
Like, what he's on his third head coach now, New Orleans, I believe.
He got Stan Van Gundy fired.
Yeah, I think. Look, New Orleans isn't a really stable basketball organization, they could be a team that might have to offload him in the next year or two.
Yeah.
And our last topic for today, and this one's a little bit hilarious, a little bit sad.
Yeah, I gotta go
if I'm being
move
honest
the
with
car.
you.
Actually, I've been summoned.
It's the last topic. Well, you can leave immediately after this.
Yes.
Be Better. Online mortgage retailer Better.com laid off 900 employees over Zoom this week, representing about 15% of their entire workforce. They have this recorded and available for everyone to watch.
Time in my career, I'm doing this, and I do not want to do this. The last time I did it, I cried. This time I hope to be stronger. But we are laying off about 15% of the company for a number of reasons. The market, efficiency, and performances, and productivity. If you're on this call, you are part of the unlucky group.
Fuck you, dude.
That is being laid off. Your employment here is terminated. In time in my career, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
So Mo, let's get your comments first because you got to move the car.
Yeah, it's corporate for you, man. It's a cold-blooded business. I hate it. It's the toughest thing in the world, but I hope these people, male and female, are able to find jobs soon enough for them in this COVID-19
For additional
workplace.
context, they got 4 weeks of severance. They got their health benefits extended for 3 months. So the packages is not bad. It comes after around the venture capitalist funding for them to continue with a shit ton of money. But I imagine a lot of it's towards the actual investment in the properties and not the staff and wages and everything. So
here's the thing, though. He mentioned specific things like, oh, it's because of the market and productivity and performance. But he's also laying off 900 people at a time without doing them the courtesy of telling them why their productivity wasn't up to par, why it was that the market factors affected them specifically, why it was these 900 and not another 900. It's the biggest cop-out. And I know someone who's a hatchet person for a pharmaceutical company who I won't mention here. His job is to meet with people and specifically tell them why it is that they're the ones being laid off. And it's rare for me to say a pharmaceutical company is doing it better than anyone else. So it is shocking. I honestly, I'm glad this leaked, and I'm happy they're getting bad press for this.
I mean, it's expected.
Yeah, and it's the holidays, man. This couldn't wait till January. Come on.
900 people. What's the salary for a month? That's a lot of money.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Take it out of your bonus.
Yeah, exactly. What's the CEO doing personally? Well, how's his performance considering he's got to lay off 900 people? That was a fun show. A little different. Little different with Mo in the house.
Thank you to Mo.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to get.
The empty chair is a nice look.
Mo had to go move his car. But yeah, it's not a live show per se, but we kind of do this fairly live. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank Mo Khan for sitting in with us today. And Eagle, thank you for all the work you've done. For those who have not yet done so, please do like, subscribe, rate, review, do all that fun stuff. Otherwise, Eagle will come to your house and replace all of your orange juice with cranberry juice, and nobody likes that shit. Thank you all for listening, and thank you all for letting me be myself. You've been listening to Hot Sauce Sports.